Welcome to the fourth episode of our podcast, Existential Idiots. I'm here with Lilith and myself, Thomas. Unfortunately, if you didn't tune in to last week's episode, Reese will no longer be co-hosting, but he still will be around. In today's podcast, we'll be talking about mental health for Mental Health Awareness Month. Please keep in mind, we are not health professionals. We are merely two existential idiots raising awareness on mental health and speaking on behalf of our experiences.
Yay, intro! We did it!
The exact
Without
same
laughing.
Intro. Oh, God.
Yes, the same exact intro, but yet we still laugh about it beforehand, so.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So, yeah, last time we were kind of just talking about the blanket of mental health and kind of just all over the place, just covering a lot of things. Unfortunately, sometimes we can't get too in-depth with a lot of things, but I think this week we're gonna dive a little deeper into some more specific topics and talk about them for a little bit. So hope you're ready for the ride.
Yeah, so Thomas and I, as much as we want to, like he was saying, talk about more things in detail or a lot of things we can't really there's some things we just can't talk about, but we can definitely speak on behalf of our own experiences on a lot of things. So I think that's what we're going to focus on in this episode. So the first things we would like to talk about is some coping mechanisms, some positive coping mechanisms. I know personally for me, I still, and I think everybody else can also say what they feel helps them the most. I'll start out for me personally, video games, and I'm sure Thomas will definitely agree with that. So,
Absolutely.
for the most part, a lot of the times whenever I come home from work or school or something stressing me out, the biggest distraction that's helped me was video games. But now I want to know about you, Thomas.
Yeah, it definitely helped me a lot, like in adolescence, like when I was a child. Like it was I was dealing with a lot of stuff, like let's say, I don't know how many people can relate to their parents arguing, but I definitely have some memories of playing some of those like
Oh
child
no.
games like Wizard 101 or something like that, and they're arguing, or like it
Yeah.
definitely like mitigated some of the, if I were to just sit there and listen, because for a while I did. I didn't really have a choice. I didn't have those distractions in place, so I kind of had to sit there in silence in my room and listen, and that's not always a good thing. Sometimes, you know, when people are arguing like that, it's just, and there's name calling, it's never good. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's better to just not hear it at all. And it sucks because you're supposed to listen to your parents, and if you hear them arguing or something like that, it really can really mess with you. So
Yeah, especially when they are your role models and it's hard to already feel in a safe environment when there's a lot of hostility. So I actually relate to that experience too. At one period of my life, my parents were also going through a very hard time with their relationship, and then we were always constantly moving so much. So a lot of what kept me grounded was I was like, this is like a memory I can remember the back of my head, was always playing my GameCube. I had a DS at the time, and that was really fun. My Game Boy Color, I used to play a lot of Pokemon Yellow. That was like my my way of escaping from reality. And I know, Thomas, for you, you grew up as an only child. I can imagine that's already let alone really hard, since you didn't have, I don't know, maybe, I can't speak for you, but I'm just saying, like, I know I had my brothers, so I can imagine being alone without anybody is just, that sounds terrible. I'm sorry.
yeah, it definitely. I think about it all the time, and I always ask myself, would I be different than how I am now without,
Mm.
or with siblings? Like, would I have had, because like, maybe we could have like tugged each other, or just kind of talked through it while it was happening, but I just kind of had to sit there and listen.
Yeah.
Thankfully I did have some my mom's side of a family We were all really close. Like my cousins were basically my siblings. So
Oh, nice. Yeah.
we were always over there all the time. And one of my good cousins, Doug, I still talk to him quite a lot. He's, I've become a little bit more distant from my family. I think it just comes with age, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
a lot of people go their own ways. It's just sad to, kind of look back and realize how close you actually were. But I've definitely tried to keep in contact for sure, and I still go to like family holidays and stuff like that. It's not like I moved far away, but I think my relationship with Doug as a kid definitely helped. Would I have been better off with siblings? Who knows? But
Right.
I would say it was hard sometimes when I kind of a funny story is like if I did anything bad, which I never did because I was always a rule follower, I had no one to blame. When you see like TV shows, you see like, oh, he did it, and I just have to accept it. And I think that actually might have helped me today, like just accepting my actions, because that's not an easy thing for people to do. But I think being an only child, like definitely like you just gotta accept it. And like, the truth does hurt you sometimes and it may get you into trouble, but at the end of the day, at least you were honest. So
Right. Yeah.
there were downsides to being an only child, and I definitely don't think but there was definitely some positives too. So I was
Yeah.
I was spoiled for sure. I mean, what else did they have to do, right? But
Yeah. And like growing up with siblings was another thing that's yeah. I know we were talking about positive coping mechanisms, but I know social interaction with someone that you're very close with is something that not a lot of some kids can't do, and even today some people can't reach out for that, someone to lean on a shoulder to. And I didn't really have too much of that, to be honest with you. Like, it was more like we were just there together when it happened, so I guess in a way it was like a trauma bond. But I know video games was like the big factor for all of us in the form of escaping our own demons and stuff. And I feel like that's something we still do to this day. My brothers love playing, like, after a long day, they just want to come home and play WoW or like any other form of games. I'm calling them out right now, but it's like I know that is what we've grown up, and what makes us feel comfortable. That's what makes us feel safe, is like being whatever it is, a console or on our desktop computer, whatever it was. It was what we felt was the best thing for us. And like another thing for me personally, another coping mechanism I always try to do is we both love music. I know Thomas and I always still listen to music together. Like, that's what has bounded us as friends too. And like, I think it's funny, like, all of my counseling friends could actually vouch for me, but you will always see headphones on my head. It's I realize how much that it's helped me to just calm down. I used to have a lot of test anxiety when I was younger, and I still do to this day, where I would have to get accommodations because I also have very bad anxiety, I have a panic disorder, as well as ADHD, so I needed some accommodations to help with tests and stuff. So music was one thing that helped me calm down. And yeah, just in general, like, I'll go more into it, but Thomas, I want to hear your thoughts on it too, because I know music is super big with you
yeah,
too.
music, it definitely, it's interesting because like when I was a kid, I don't think I realized the effect that it was having on me. I just would always put on I remember I got like a really nice pair of headphones for Christmas one year, because I wanted it for like gaming and to listen to music. And I remember just putting it on for the first time, and like it was like surround sound kind of, and I just remember being like taken away. I almost kind of wish I was listening to like Deftones or something like that, but I didn't know about them yet. So like,
Yeah.
I would have had like those out of body experiences that you see in like the memes and stuff. But
Oh yeah, the ones we send each other. Yeah.
but I just remember that so vividly, and I remember just listening for hours and hours, and looking back, I'm like, wow, that really helped me. And the noise canceling effect, I didn't have to hear anything else that was going on around me, and it was just me. It was me and the music, and I was enjoying it. And now looking back, I'm like, I'm so glad I had that, and I do have it now. I can kind of just, thankfully, my job lets me have headphones in all night, so. I'm in my own little world doing my little tasks, just vibing,
Yeah,
and
it's what keeps you going. Yeah.
it motivates me throughout the night, and it sucks because like I feel like now I have to go find another job where I'm able to do that, but I think that
Yeah.
I'll survive because this is just the first job that kind of let me do it, but
Yeah. It's funny that we're talking about music and video games and stuff. This is actually like one of the reasons why I want to do like form of expressive arts in my form of future counseling career. My specialty is focusing a lot with like, oh, how does one express one's feelings or things that's happened to them through a form of outlet? So like music, art, video games. What can help you to keep intact with your emotions? And I remember like how you say you listen to music at work and everything that just keeps you going. Like that's the same for me. Like whenever I'm walking to school or work, I'm listening to music. If I'm needing to calm down, I listen to music. Like at this moment, even in this podcast, I'm listening to music. It's
yeah,
it's crazy how many hours I have on Spotify for the amount of like listens I have. But like I I don't like before when I was younger. Now that I think about it, this just came up for me. Like whenever I used to walk to school and I was feeling like scared, or I used to be home alone by myself a lot. So I found myself really being alone a lot when I was younger. So I then also had to learn how to figure out my own emotions by myself, despite having a lot of people around me. But I think music was the one thing that kept me intact with a lot of things going on in my life. And I don't know, like it's just like a huge factor for me. So I've always found that the best form of coping mechanism for me. So aside from a lot of things, but I think I wanted to bring that up for both of us because it's
yeah,
like I
it's a big.
know it's a big thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big part of our lives for sure. I mean, we can't. I mean, I don't think to la I don't think I've gone a whole day without listening to at least one song.
Right?
Taking a
Yeah.
shower. If I'm working or if it's my day off, I'm just like, oh, what do I want to do? Okay, well, first I'm gonna put on some bangers real quick
Yeah.
before I choose anything. But
Yeah.
uh,
I legit whenever it's anything like even when I'm playing games I'll put music that will make me feel what I'm feeling in the moment. Like I'll put like funk or something or like some metal in the back so that like keeps me pumped up and stuff. And same with like going to the gym, you know. I sound like a total Chad for that. But it's like it's so great. I love it so much. I can talk about a whole podcast of how music has just impacted my life in general. And I'm sure Thomas can vouch for himself too about how music has been so great to him. And I know Thomas, you said you were gonna pursue music in the future, right?
yeah, I definitely. So my buddy Max, bless his heart, we actually just got back from a show on Saturday to go see Belmont. Can't swim. Capstan, something
No.
like that. They were jamming. I was completely enthralled the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot recommend going to see live music uh, anymore. Like I'm telling you, go see live music. Like if you really like an artist, please, like you're
Yeah,
supporting
and
them,
it's
and
also
it's
so therapeutic.
oh
Like
for sure.
I remember going to a concert when I was feeling super depressed and it helped me so much. It made me feel like I was really alive. And like it's loud, yes, it's crowding, but it's so worth it because you're with a group of people that also like the same
I
music
was
as
just
you.
about to say
Everyone's
that.
vibing. Yeah, like there's nobody's judging you. You're there to have a good time, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
it's cool. Like, and it's really easy to if you have. I don't really have a whole lot of issues socializing, but I would say
Mm.
I have noticed my friends who might not be so social, I could see them open up because it's so easy. Just be like, oh, who are you here to see? Oh, I'm here to see, Can't Swim. Like, oh, that's cool. I'm here to see Belmont. Like, I really like their dynamic. I think that works really well. Because this was my second time seeing them. But it's so easy in that setting. So
Yeah, and it builds a community too,
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing yeah, like again, we can literally talk about. I know this is the mental health podcast here. We're talking on this episode, but like music in general for both of us has been so therapeutic for us, and just it's what's kept us anchored in this world, to be honest with you. So
yeah, and I would say, like blanket though, just you hear us yapping about the music and some of the other stuff and some of our open coping mechanisms. It's important to find what makes you talk about and feel this way too, because it might not be music, it could be anything. It could be hobbies, clubs, social interaction. It could be serving your community. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be music. It doesn't have to be and it could be something small too. It could just be like, oh, I'm gonna go outside and go for a walk. That could be like the same effect that we have with music. So
right. I'm curious to know what our well, maybe I'm getting ahead of ourselves, but this also follows to the next prompt that we were talking about when we know things are getting bad for us, or more so negative coping mechanisms, I guess. What
so yeah,
do we have to say about that?
It's not always great, I definitely I'm sad without my music, but if sometimes the music doesn't do everything, and so I'll just kind of even with my music, I will get very existential, and I'll start thinking about my place in the world. And unfortunately, a lot of these thoughts start overlapping, and they start to drown. It feels like I'm drowning almost in these thoughts, and I can't, and even if I try to talk to someone about it, I know that they'll understand, but I know that they don't feel the same way that I do, and so that can be hard for me. So it's like a way of coping. Like, I just get existential, and I think about like the universe and like everything that's going on right now, what I'm doing right now in this moment, and it's not always great. But afterwards, like if I'm listening to like a really good song or something like that, like I'm like, okay, that was a good conversation, but it was not good that I had some of the thoughts that I did. I just had to. You have to keep yourself grounded when you start having some thoughts like that, because it can turn into some more negative things. I wouldn't say that I have a whole lot of negative things, and I might be doing things that I might not even realize, and it would take someone else to see, because coping isn't always obvious. It always isn't, super, like, oh, I'm doing this specific thing only when I'm sad. You may not even see it in yourself, so it may take someone else. But.
Yeah, sometimes I know for a while, for at least my depression, a lot of things just don't feel the same. So that's like another indicator for me that I'm just way deep within the surface, that it's like I almost am also drowning too with all my thoughts. And sometimes coping, it's hard to do so in the first place when you're already feeling so much. And so I know for me personally, like dissociation's a big thing for me. I tend to dissociate really hard, and then I don't know, like I also get pretty existential. I think I mostly do within myself. Like I doubt myself so much. It's terrible. I actually had that happen to me yesterday. Like my role as a student and my future role as a counselor is a lot of imposter syndrome that hits me so hard. And like, it's very hard to think so positive, or at least be real with yourself, or not feel like you have to, I think that's the inner perfectionism in me personally, that just wants to always be better and be good enough. But as I'm saying this, I am kind of trauma dumping here, but it's so hard, especially because of where I am, and like I have so much pressure going on around me and my environment, and there's just so much going on, and it feels like you are drowning. And so um it's hard. I don't know, it's just hard for me. I'm still processing it even as I speak about it, but um yeah, I'm trying not to drown is basically where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
So
and I think it's important to, I don't even want to call it trauma dumping. I think it's important to talk about it so that if someone else is feeling this way, they might not feel exactly the same way that you do, like I was saying earlier, but they'll
yeah.
understand, and if they're a close friend or a family member, they can,
You
just
know, it's so
kind of help,
funny.
help you through that.
I love how Thomas always, it's like I'm the technically the counselor in training and he sounds like he's the counselor. It's so funny. No, no, no. Thomas has been like one of the greatest people that has helped me personally get me pretty
Aw.
grounded because I myself don't, it's hard to really think about stuff for yourself, you know? And sometimes you need someone to help remind you that, hey, everything's going to be okay, or talk you through it. Because that's like the biggest thing for me personally that helps me. And I know for you, Thomas, also talking it through helps you too. So,
Yeah,
but
for sure. Yeah, it's
yeah,
just to get it out in the open. It almost feels like I'm emptying my brain a little bit. And I think a lot of people, especially in my life, that I've noticed, they keep things inside. They bottle it up and they bottle it up. And I notice when I do that, I get really high blood pressure. So I just like, I'll I'll just start yapping, to like anybody that will listen. It's just like, hey, hey, do you want to like hang out in Discord call, or do you just, like, you want to hang out or something like that? It's just like I realize the signs before they start getting really bad, because if it gets so
yeah,
far, sometimes I can kind of shut down, and that's not good. Where I don't want to talk to
yeah,
anybody, and it's dangerous to be alone with your thoughts sometimes. It's a scary thing. It
yeah.
doesn't have to be dangerous. If you feel like you're still in control, that's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that there are positive ways that you can notice what is happening to you in that very
Mm-hmm.
moment, and what to do when that happens. So
Yeah,
it's important to keep that in mind.
yeah, and like for me, you mentioned about how bottling up things. I bottle up a lot of things. Like because in my head I think that I can handle it, and then that's where I become irritated a lot. I remember last year I was going through a lot of emotional trauma with a lot of my personal life and just in general with me. I was going through a whole identity crisis. It was insane, and like I had a lot of people pass away last year too, and I've been grieving to this day about a lot of death anniversaries, and it was just very hard for me. And like I feel like a part of me is this is something I developed as a kid, is that I never really asked for help. I'm afraid to ask for help sometimes. So I've gotten so much better with it, thankfully. But a lot of the times I'll find myself feeling really irritated. I'll feel very closed ended. Recently, I found out that I'm very impulsive. So like last year, I did a lot of impulsive things regards to like things I've always wanted to do, but in the sense of like the fuck it mentality, and sometimes it's good and bad. But I noticed one of my friends even was like, hey, are you good? I noticed you're doing so much, and it's probably mania that I was probably also experiencing too at the time. But yeah, um sorry, we definitely drifted it through topic to topic, but this in our topic we were mostly going to talk about what we find ourselves when things we sense ourselves not feeling good about a lot of things, like we notice the symptoms of it. But let's switch to the positives. When do we feel like we recognize some growth in ourselves?
Yeah, for sure. I think um, It's I don't like my military career was kind of like not I don't have a lot of like great memories, and like it definitely left a little bit of a lasting not like great effect on me. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember uh, first going there and being like shitting my pants because I was like, what did I just do? Like I signed a dotted line. Like what? Like that realization hit me. But you look at the day that I graduated and like I saw my mom for the first time after a couple months, like at that moment, I felt that I had gone through manhood. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like I was a man after that. And, like, that's weird to say, but I was still 17 and stuff like that. And, like, I felt
Oh
that
yeah.
I was pretty mature already. But I think just I forget the word, the discipline, like learning the discipline to hold yourself accountable really hit
Mm-hmm.
me. Because you're not only doing it for yourself, you're not holding yourself accountable, you're also holding others accountable. So um, there was a lot of amazing things that I learned, and I did grow quite a lot from experiencing all that, and it changed my trajectory for sure. um,
Mm-hmm.
but is there a really big moment that you think that you that you had a big, I don't want to say glow up, but
Yeah, like a moment of realization.
yeah.
Actually, uh, I think sometimes that's where I also lack some self-awareness for me personally, but I've had some people point out that I'm more giggly, I'll be more talkative, like it's funny, I'm more perceived as someone who's very quiet and introvert, but I think, with a lot of people, they feel comfortable, they'll yap until their heart's content. I am
Mm-hmm.
definitely one of those people who will feel very comfortable and allow myself to express myself, which that is one thing I've noticed about myself. I even noticed with my own appearance, like for a while, like I stopped using makeup, or I would use makeup to feel. I think the mindset of it was like the only time I felt pretty was when I wore makeup, which that wasn't really the case. Like sure, it adds a factor to me feeling confident about myself, and that was another thing I felt like was a positive thing. Like I was doing things that were trying to make me feel better, and I felt myself being a little bit more comfortable in my skin, even though there are some days I don't feel that way. But I catch myself taking a second to just go, hey, like I think I need to give myself some grace and love, because it's hard enough already to do that. And I like last year I did a lot of, actually this year and last year I did a lot of like I took myself out to dates and stuff, which was really nice. Mostly this year I've been really trying to prioritize a lot too. And I'm trying to think what else. I know I've been doing a lot more of my hobbies, like drawing. Like before I was not drawing, I was so closed and like just doom scrolling till just to escape. And I think my mindset, that's where it hit me, the epiphany hit me, where my mindset just completely changed a little bit. So yeah, I think that's. I'm trying to think more, but like
I
that's
got you.
pretty much some moment.
Yeah,
Here's small moments here and
yeah.
there.
If
Yeah.
you think about some more, for sure you can bring it back up. We don't have a problem circling back to. Yeah, sometimes it takes a minute for it to. It's a deep question. Like,
Yeah.
it might not be something that you notice. It would be something else. Like, oh, like you said in the beginning, like your friends kind of noticed you were changing how you acted and stuff like that. But
Yep. Yep.
um, I definitely, this is gonna be a weird one, but COVID, when COVID hit in 2020, um,
Ooh. Yeah.
uh, my job wasn't considered essential, and I was on unemployment and stuff like that for the first time. And I just remember at first being so excited. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I just get to stay home and do whatever and be safe and play
Mm-hmm.
video games and hang out with my friends. But I think after like the second month I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, oh my, I started questioning like everything. And so coming back from COVID, I mean, I feel like I'm still recovering 4 years later
Oh yeah, me
from
too.
that.
Yeah.
It was so something like that I'm sure it impacted everybody almost. Like every single person was impacted by that. So
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah, COVID was a hard time for me too. It's funny that people perceive COVID as like the perfect time for introverts to stay home, but really it was actually quite the opposite. If I didn't have Discord, I think I would have absolutely gone insane.
For
This was
sure.
also, yeah, like this was also the time period I was trying to study for nursing school because I was trying to get into nursing, and I went through like a really bad breakup too, so that was really hard. Like I had a lot of things just happen to me, and then I didn't really have my form of escaping the house. Sometimes, like as much as I'm a homebody, there were a lot of times where like I couldn't go to work because they closed my job at the time, and it was just so hard. I found myself really ruminating on a lot of my own thoughts, and then thankfully at that time I think I met like a friend group that was really cool. But if oh my god, like I'm still recovering from COVID because I was also going to school a little bit right after, and it was mostly all online, so I didn't get that too much of that social interaction. As much as I have very bad social anxiety, I was still the social cues. It's still something that I needed to practice on, and I didn't get to do that, and it affected my anxiety so bad because I started to question myself so much, and my body language I felt like also changed too. But yeah, there's actually like to this day there is still some therapies that focus on COVID, like group work with COVID and how much it's affected people,
Oh,
and COVID is still happening to this
oh
day.
yeah, for sure. It just nobody talks
Yeah,
about it anymore. But
because it's like, oh yeah, we've been through it, and they treat it like it's nothing. And but in general, it's shifted so many people's perspective of the world and then how they feel with their mental health. It affected me with my mental health. It literally made me change careers. Like that's how much
yeah,
it's
that's
impacted me
that's crazy.
completely.
So it's not
But yeah,
necessarily like we did grow from it, but it was such a it wasn't like, I mean, you could view it as a positive thing because I'm sure you're really happy in your program now, and
yeah,
feel might feel a little more homey, in this one instead
yeah,
of nursing. But so it's like, I would say that even though something negative did happen, you have to remember to take the positives from it. COVID was a really bad time, I think, for a lot of people, but there was
yeah.
also a lot of people that might have prospered. Like they might have spent more time with their family, and then they realized that they
Hmm.
really love their family, stuff like that. Like maybe if they were
Yeah.
feeling distant, although I know there were probably, I think the divorce rate might have went up.
Yeah, because
That's a little
that,
sad,
yep,
but I mean, hey,
being
it's
around each other for so long, yeah.
and I think there was a baby boom too. So I mean,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
people,
Yeah.
you can't just be sitting around the house all day. You get a little
Yeah.
bored, but
That actually reminded me. This is sorry, I didn't mean to make it sound so sad here, but like I remember this is when I realized I had a drinking problem too. I that during that time during COVID, I was because I was at home and that's where I mostly felt comfortable drinking. And what was that? 4 years ago? 4 years ago? Yeah, I was in my really start early 20s. So and it was a lot for me personally. But yeah, I mean, it allowed me to get closer to my family, but it also just made me learn a lot of things about myself. And then I was definitely processing some things with that, unfortunately, in not the best way possible. But yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely important now to be able to just look back on those things and realize that, because a lot of people might
Mm-hmm.
not think to do that. They might not be able
Mm-hmm.
to reflect. And I just want to tell you that it's important that we do look back. There are some, I think everybody has, maybe some not so comfortable things that happen in their life, much more
Yeah.
major. I wouldn't say I've gone through anything like seriously like traumatic, but I still sometimes when I'm going to bed will think back of things that happened, and I wish I could change them, but
Yeah.
you can't. You can't change the what happened, how it happened, who it happened with. You just have to take what happened, learn all that you can from it, and try to process it and move on. It's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I wish it was like that for most people. I know for me personally, it took me the longest time to process a lot of things from my past. Um, I don't think I'll really talk about my traumatic experiences, but I have gone through some things that really shifted me as a person, and even from other people in my environment too. You know, that comes with age and being out in the world, and with that also just having anxiety in general is just something that will stick in your brain. I always have this metaphor that I have this a clone version of me who is exactly like me, but she's anxiety and she says all these things to me, and I have to be either real with myself to then help move on, or it's I have to cut it out sometimes because it's a lot of, or just talk myself out of it because that's already alone very hard to deal with. And that same here with the existential thoughts is that like I start to question my own purpose of my role in this world and stuff, and that leads to a lot of depressive thoughts. But I'm merely speaking on my own experience. So of course, anyone who's listening can be like, yeah, I relate to that. And also, what's helped me, of course, is being in this program. Therapy has been super beneficial with that, and I, of course, am one to always boost and encourage people to seek help if they can, if it's possible, or if you can do it, if you have the resource to do it. Yeah, go for it. So.
I did want to say too is that like you hear us talking about our own experiences, but every person's the way they go through things and the things that happen to them are so unique and just I mean, you could never look at a person and just guess what has happened or what they've been through. You know what I'm saying? Like you have literally no idea until you get to know that person, and even then, they might be tucking something away, and like that's okay if you want to keep things to yourself. Not I've ran into people, that I've wanted to be open with, but they're not willing to be open with me right away.
Mm-hmm.
It can it's just how they are and stuff like that, and so as we talk about our own things, it's important to remember that everybody has been through their own battles, and they've been through their own thoughts, and they've been through their own coping mechanisms, and even some of the younger generation too. I mean, I know we're getting up there in age a little bit, but just thinking back to my teenage years, I just remember thinking, I'm like, this is like the worst my life's ever gonna be, and if only he knew that he was talking out of his ass, but.
Yeah.
But it's just important to keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's true.
I was gonna ask you too. I know that you're in your current program for clinical medical
Is it
health.
counseling? Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, like, how has learning about it and like doing activities related to mental health and stuff like that, how has that affected your own personal mental health?
Yeah, so like when I started the program, it was back in last year of spring. It was also when I turned 25. So, well, I recently found out that people who are neurodivergent don't have a fully developed brain at 25. It's later on in their lives till at least their 30s. So when I started the program, I obviously was was very scared, and I I went through a whole identity crisis. Like I am not kidding. I even like changed my name because I wanted to feel what was right for me. I started to discover myself as a person too. So I knew with the program that that is what I'm still going through after a whole year of being in it, still discovering parts of myself. What are my triggers? What are things that make me happy? What are things that make me sad? So getting into the field, my point is that when I started seeing I started practicing counseling, um, there's a phrase that it's called countertransference, where if the counselor puts their own feelings onto the client themselves, or if they're feeling any sort of way, you don't want that to happen to your client at that time. So I remember I caught myself doing that once because I was going through my own form of demons and battles. It was a rough time because, as a graduate student, you're going through school and you're counseling people, so there's a lot of roles that you have to play. And I realized one thing about my mental health is that yeah, sure, I think like the school aspect of being stressed out for grades, am I doing well in the program? You're a graduate student, you're in your master's program. That's like already alone a very daunting thought for me, which I don't give myself enough grace of that, but that alone it's scary. And it made me feel really stressed. It made me feel depressed for a little while because I started to question whether, like, am I good enough for this program? But I had to, like, when I was helping other people and stuff, and I started getting into the program and learning about other people, it actually really enhanced my understanding of my own mental health, and it also allowed me to understand a lot more resources too. So that's been really great. Sorry, I can ramble all about my own experiences in the
Yeah,
program,
for
but
sure.
like in general, like the program has definitely, you learn a lot about yourself when you're actually doing something. That's one thing that can be applied to all things. And like being in the program itself has allowed me to understand other people more. There's a lot of multicultures and counseling. There's a lot of different perspectives. There's a lot of theories that you go over, and one, it's like you're actually, I did like you're really figuring out yourself. It's really what I've learned mostly from the program, and then your own mental health and how you yourself manage it while you're playing so many different roles, because at the end of the day you're helping the person that's in front of you, and like you have to be in a good headspace to not let that affect them too. And that's one thing I've been also learning about myself. And I feel like for me, naturally, I'm a very empathetic person. So I, of course, have to be mindful of how I'm feeling in the moment when I'm hearing a lot of things that they're telling me. So, but so far, I mean, I think it's actually helped me in my mental health after coming back from COVID and, being online most of majority of my undergrad. Going into a graduate program that's all in person has been really great for me, and I love it. It's great. It has its ups and downs, like being in a school. But yeah, sorry, I'm gonna ramble so much, so I don't want to take away the
No, you're
spotlight.
good.
But yeah.
I would say too, just to add on, getting to me and Lilith have become really close this year, and just getting to know her while she's in this program has helped me immensely. It's helped me understand
Aw.
how I've been feeling and stuff like that, and that these feelings, not only do I understand them, but they're also valid, and it's okay to feel that way. And that has like completely opened my eyes. And so I find it really important. You don't have to know someone, in a program like hers, but
Right. Yeah.
it's definitely helped me, and just finding someone that helps you through things is a really big thing. And you don't have to be social, and you don't even have to do it in person too. It could be online. You can, just finding someone else that feels similarly. They might not understand you yet, but just knowing that in a space, and like you're in a safe space with them, that you're able to talk about
Yeah.
those things too. So that's something that me and Lilith, I think, have provided for each other, where we can talk about almost anything, and there's no holds bar. And just a lot of a lot of mental health, unfortunately, is alone. You're alone in a lot of it. And you
Yeah.
might be in a setting where you're super anxious, but everyone else around you is just having a really good time, and they would have no idea unless you said something, or
Yeah.
if they picked up on it. Especially if they're strangers, they're not gonna know. They're like, oh, that guy's having a freaking mental breakdown over there. Like, but
Oh no. Yeah.
but
It's definitely hard to see who's not hiding behind a mask,
right.
And like if you have the people in your life that you can lean on, oh my god, like that's the most precious thing you could have. And like I'm very grateful that I have like Thomas is one of the closest people in my life too. Not that I can just put aside my counselor role, put him aside as like the therapist friend to just talk about things. And then I have other people in my life that can do that too. And like I know some people don't have the privilege to have that, and that is why like talking about this topic is just to show that you're not alone in this, and like it's important that you do what's best for yourself. And like I of course I'm gonna say it again, like please like seek out, reach out, find your community, find a place that you can have that safe space, talk about anything, because I know personally for me that was very hard of reaching out for help, because I always felt like, oh, I'm gonna burden other people, or I feel like I am a burden, like my problems are not enough for other people because a lot more people are going through a lot of worse things. But in reality, like everyone's feelings are valid, and we're all human. We all need that interaction with our, even with ourselves. We need to give love for ourselves and then receive that love, because that's part of the essentials of being human. So anyways, there is one last thing we'd like to talk about before we end this podcast. We're a little bit past our time a little bit, but Thomas and I always have really great talks about what we define things ourselves. So, Thomas, I'm going to ask you first: is what would you describe happiness in your own words and feelings?
So I definitely this is something I had to really like when we talked about it before the podcast. I had to think about, I'm like, oh, when do I like, what do I feel like when I'm listening to music, or what do I feel when I'm hanging out with friends, like what is that feeling? And it's something I think I feel, I don't know if it's just my nervous system, but I kind of feel it all over my body. Like my body is like, it almost feels like I'm recovering from like an illness, like I'm getting better, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just like a little shot of like adrenaline almost. Like when I'm listening to music and I'm really into the song, I turn it up all the way, I kind of feel like my body is resonating with the music almost,
Yeah.
I could feel it in my heart too, especially if it's something I really love things that are wholesome. So like if I'm watching a show, or if I'm having a deep conversation with a friend, or I'm listening to like a really emotional song, I get really, I start feeling, not that I feel sensitive, but I'm just like, I'm in a really good spot that I feel that I'm comfortable. It almost is like I'm super comfortable. Like I know exactly where I am. I know exactly how I feel. Stuff like that. So I think happiness, in my words, is something that you feel all over your body, and sometimes I'll even subconsciously smile too, and I'll notice myself smiling. And then, I know a couple of times people are like, dude, why are you smiling right now? And I didn't even realize that I was doing it. So, happiness can be something that you can notice, but, in that moment, you're just happy. So you might not even think about it too much, you just are happy.
Yeah. I feel like I'm about the same. Like, you can feel it physically that you are happy. Even subconsciously, there are, chemicals in your brain. Your body is having that warmth sensation of happiness for me. I've always defined happiness as just the little things in life. I'm always happy when I do the things that I love. It's always when I hear happiness, I think of love, or I think about I for me personally, I think about like laughing. I think about smiling, and happiness can be even just peace within yourself. I know for me personally, I Thomas knows this. I post these videos of like super calm, like aesthetically pleasing dark weather, and like it's all like fog and stuff. Like I find that my happiness. That is my way of safety. And happiness can also mean safety, because you feel comfortable, you feel just in your own space and your own within your own feeling. I don't know, I can't describe it, but when I see videos like that, I feel happy from them. When I see wholesome videos, I think about like all things that I love, because I'm like a super empathetic person. I'm gonna want to express my happiness to other people, and like I think that's where I find myself happy too. And like physically, I can feel it in my heart. My heart's beating. I can feel the ends of my, my cheeks up to my eyes, like smiling, and then, or if I'm laughing, I can feel it in my sides where, it's a funny joke and stuff. Like, it's always like the little things to me personally that makes me pretty happy. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's nice to notice when you are happy too, and people around you are happy too. Like I know, like you definitely like something I noticed is that you giggle pretty, like when I know you're like really happy, and so it's just like it might not be something that you do on purpose, but
Yeah. I do want to say to stop right here a little bit because I know we are a little bit past our time that my words of encouragement is go find your own form of happiness. I know it's hard to find happiness in a lot of things, especially when we have our own battles with mental health, but that's why I always say like the littlest things make me happy because there's not a lot of things that people realize that can make you happy, or even if it's just getting by, it's always doing the best that you can, and that's what matters most. And um I don't know. That's just something I wanted to say that came from my own heart. Like when you said when I think happiness, I'm like, oh yeah. I try to make myself happy because that's a form of like self care, and like I know a lot of people it's a hard time to do that, but let me be your cheerleader to say that go find your own form of happiness, and also like whatever you are going through, you're never alone. You have people to support to and lean to. So yeah. But we are reached the end of our end of this episode. So, as our actual talk comes to an end, I would like to remind everyone that there are resources available to everyone from all walks of life and any of age. So, please visit resources such as www.apa.org/topics/crisis hotlines, and the suicide hotline number is 98988. Please look in the description for more listed resources. And again, thank you once again for joining our Existential Idiocracy, and we hope that you stick around for the ride for next week's episode, and maybe we'll continue to talk about mental health topics or talk about other things, but for the most part, let us know what you think. So yeah, thanks everyone.
see you later.
See ya!